So the other day I was a bit bored. Not knowing what to do, I popped in my copy of FIFA 19. I'm not really a big fan of sports games anymore, but FIFA sometimes helps to kill time. I get to pretend I'm a football god and turn down the difficulty to beat anyone I want. However, while I was sitting there, I was overcome by a weird feeling like, why is it so mundane, almost boring? The graphics are nice, the gameplay is more realistic than ever before. Commentators, live stream simulation, celebrations and great goals. Don't get me wrong, if you like this kind of game, be my guest. But at the moment, one big question crossed my mind. Wasn't football once the greatest thing ever to me? When was that again? I tried to remember, and the more I thought about it, the further I had to go back in the past, to the height of football, to the year that made me fall in love with the sport. It was the summer of 1992, 26th of June to be exact, the final of the Euro Cup, a reunited German team against their opponents from Denmark. Germany just got into the finals after a 3-2 win against Sweden. Völler, Klinsmann, Hässler and Riedler, all of the German team became our heroes, and my dad and I were sitting in front of the TV celebrating. Everything was about football that year. I remember well when me and my friends were begging our parents all summer to buy us packs after packs after packs of stickers, and somehow you never got your favorite player. Football was not only on the TV during matches, but also during every commercial break, during every news report, pretty much everywhere. Every single day we ran out to the local football field with the same old ball that probably every kid played with, celebrating, screaming, failing at tricks. But careful, don't play too long, because back at home on TV, my favorite show was having its premiere that year, Kickers. I watched Gregor, Kevin and Mario lose and win against the toughest opponents, never giving up. In my young mind, Kickers were the German team, and their most feared opposing team, the Devils, were Denmark. But something else was on TV as well. Something new and exciting was coming in August. In between our favorite cartoons, there was this new machine with new games. The Super Nintendo? How awesome! But of course, no one had one. It was too expensive, at least for now. But that didn't matter. To still our video game hunger for football, we didn't need the Super Nintendo. We already had the greatest football game ever made. Not FIFA, of course. In 1992 FIFA wasn't even a thing yet. But even then, we have what I would say in my nostalgic mind is the greatest football video game ever made. This is Nintendo World Cup. Nintendo World Cup was first released in 1990 by Technos Japan, a company already famous for smash hits such as River City Ransom and the amazing Super Dodgeball. In fact, all three of these games are part of a bigger game franchise often referred to as Kunio-kun games, named so since they all feature the tough guy character Kunio-kun, who became the mascot for Technos Japan and was afterwards used in many more games in Japan and the West, though in the West he often received quite different names, such as Alex in River City Ransom. The similarities between the game's artworks and general character designs cannot be ignored. But that is of course not a surprise, since in the Japanese context, Nintendo World Cup was a sequel to Super Dodgeball and depicted a national tournament between high schools in Japan. In the West, however, it was transformed into the context of the World Cup. Coinciding with the 1990 release was the actual FIFA World Cup 1990 in Italy. I assume it may have had a great influence on the localization decisions. Instead of high schools, the player gets to choose between 13 nations: USA, England, Holland, Spain, Japan, Brazil, France, Cameroon, Argentina, Russia, Italy, Mexico and West Germany. Yeah, that's right, West Germany. At the time of the release, the reunified German team didn't even exist yet. At first glance, the game seems to be very simple. You pick your team, select your personal character, decide on some tactical points and off you go. The controls are simple to grasp too. The D-pad moves the player around and can also be used to direct the ball. A makes a player pass the ball and B is used for shooting. When one of your teammates has the ball, you can give them a pass or shoot command with the corresponding buttons, though sometimes they might not feel like it. A and B are also used for fouls, which in this realistic soccer game is totally allowed, and it is quite satisfying, I might add. You can even tackle opponents to the point that they are basically unconscious. Nothing more satisfying than having the green all to yourself. Besides all this, there is a super shot. Activated by pressing A and B together. You will perform a bicycle kick which releases a nearly unstoppable power shot, often blasting anyone in the path high into the air. It's so much fun. But if you really want to make sure you hit as many players as possible, you can alternatively use a diving header. Now that you know the controls, you think there's nothing more to it. Oh, but you are wrong. Every team in this game has specific values for each player. That means that each player has, for example, different speed values attached to them. So it is quite rewarding to experiment with different team combinations. Additionally, every team has a special step counter, such as West Germany's 5 steps, to perform the super shot straight from the leg. So if you want to perform a super shot without the dive or bicycle kick, you stop, run 5 steps and push B. Enjoy watching your opponents fly, or scream angrily if the keeper of one of the better teams actually catches your super shot. As kids we didn't really care about this though. We simply had no clue why sometimes we got a super shot out of nowhere, but that made it 10 times more awesome when it actually happened. As mentioned before, the graphics are just as gorgeous as in other Kunio-kun games. The thick-limbed, stubby characters with their eyes popping out every time they get hit are so enjoyable, especially when it's accented by the excellent 8-bit sound design. The boom every time when you hit someone is so satisfying. You actually can feel the force behind your shots. And the music, yeah. The music is gorgeous, almost too good for a football game. It really gets you pumped up and gets your heart racing against the more difficult teams. Here, take a listen. The game itself offers 2 modes. The tournament mode, which can be played with up to 2 players co-op, and through its password system is very accessible, basically giving you infinite continues. And then there is the versus mode. Here you actually have the opportunity to play with up to 4 players against each other. What's so great here is that you can choose between different kind of fields, and by far the 2 most hilarious ones are ice and bumpy. Ice makes you slide around like an idiot. Whether you get hit or slide into someone else, you're gonna slip off screen every 5 seconds. It's great. Bumpy on the other hand is pure chaos. Random rocks are placed across the field, and when you or some other character runs over them, you fall flat on your face. The best thing about these alternative fields is that once you finish a game in versus mode and you start a new tournament match, the field will be the same as in the versus mode. And to make this process a bit easier, the developers have put in a little trick. On the start screen, if you press and hold select, you put the halftime counter to 0, and every A button press increases it by 1 minute. So hold select, press 1 time A, choose what field you want to play in, kill 1 minute in versus, and there you go. Enjoy the crazy show. So let's go back to that fateful 26th of June 1992. The excitement was at a climax. Germany, after almost 12 years and for the first time in my life, had finally a shot at the Euro Cup title. The game started and Germany lost. Against a team who originally wasn't even supposed to participate in the cup. What a disappointment. I do not remember my reaction, but I'm sure I was either crying or super disappointed. I always hated to lose or to be wrong as a kid. I'm also pretty sure that summer I never managed to beat the tournament mode of Nintendo World Cup. Italy in the semi-finals and Argentina in the finals are just too damn hard. But I think it's time for revenge. The time has come to get that win. After 28 years, I will beat that game. For 1992 me and for 2020 me. Let's go!